Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Favorite Album of the Year. And happy Mother's Day to all of you mothers out there. Very special happy Mother's Day to my wonderful wife, as well as my mom. Both amazing people in my life. So happy to have them. Today is your day, everybody. So hopefully go out there and give all the mothers a little bit of love today. Actually, give them a lot of love. So even in this coronavirus lockdown that we're experiencing, you can still spread the love to moms all around the world in the best way you possibly can. So I will be kind of hand delivering some special Mother's Day meals to both of my favorite mothers. All right. That's kind of what I'm doing today. So this afternoon I'll be driving all over the place, picking up some special meals and delivering them, bringing a couple home, bringing some to my mom and dad. So it'll be a good day. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Today we have arrived at 1978. Can you believe it? Can you believe it, people? We are now, 13 years into our favorite album of the year. Spectacular. We're going to go all the way to 2019. So today, again, a lot of really good ones. So as the 70s started to kind of wane down, you had a lot of things happening. Okay, some of the prog rock bands starting to get a little quiet. Right, got disco popping all over the place. That's going to be ending soon. Punk is starting to, last couple of years starting to really come up, and then it's going to die down quick too. The folk rock bands are kind of changing sound, maybe more pop oriented, maybe more rock oriented, but most importantly, you've got the rise of heavy rock and heavy metal, as well as live albums. Okay, so going forward for the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of that stuff when you start looking at the lists of all the releases that came out in this year. So, this year for me was tough just like any other, but I think my number one was pretty clear-cut for me for the most part. It was my runner-up that I kind of had an issue with because, again, some really great releases, some of my favorite releases from some of my favorite bands coming out, and some spectacular live albums. It's like, what do you choose? So, for my main choice, my favorite album of the year, it also happens to be my favorite album from this band. For me, and they had a couple really great ones that came out before, but this was, I think, the album that really did it, that really moved this band into the realms of what we would now know as heavy metal music. Released February 10th, 1978, produced by Dennis McKay, James Guthrie, and the band themselves. I'm talking about Stay in Class by Judas Priest. Some of my all-time favorite Priest classics are on this album. I just think it's a bruising, heavy album. When you talk about like the birth of heavy metal, there's a lot of bands that kind of helped the formation of the term, the genre, very early on. Bands in the late 60s, early 70s who were doing really, really heavier riffs than you ever heard before. You had Cream and the Jimi Hendrix Experience. You had Led Zeppelin, of course, and Deep Purple and Uriah Heep, and The Who to an extent. Okay. Black Sabbath, of course. Bands like Budgie and Mountain and Sir Lord Baltimore, all that kind of stuff, doing this really heavy music. But it wasn't until right around this time where that heavy style of music mixed with leather and chains and motorcycles and, all this, everything else, that the term heavy metal started to really become more prominent. And it's Judas Priest who really, really cemented it home and brought it to the forefront as a term, as a style, as a genre of music. And I mean, just some amazing tracks on here. Heavy metal classics. Exciter. Stand Back for Exciter. White Heat, Red Hot. All right. Better by You, Better Than Me. An excellent, excellent cover of a Spooky Tooth classic. Priest did a few covers throughout their career, and all those covers are, for the most part, pretty damn exceptional. The title track, Stay in Class. How about Invader? How about perhaps my favorite Priest song of all time, Saints in Hell? Dun, 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 Killer lick. Savage. We are savage. How about Beyond the Realms of Death? Talk about an epic, somewhat even proggy heavy metal classic, moody, dreamy, melodic, and then a raging climax with a couple blistering guitar solos, one nice and mellow melodic, the other just full of Heavy Metal Fury. And then, of course, you got Heroes End to finish it all off. It's a perfect album. And it's damn heavy. You know, Sin After Sin that came out before was great. But this took it to another level. And they've continued to do that going forward with a lot of other great albums. Even another one released that same year. But this is my favorite of the two. So as far as the runner-up goes, you know, it kind of came down to a couple. Let me just take a look at my list here. Yeah, it came down to a couple, actually. A handful. So one band who released their third album with my favorite singer for them and one of my favorite singers of all time. Well worth a mention here. Another one, a debut by a band that would seemingly reinvent a lot of things, and a guitar player who would reinvent guitar playing. Another, a live album from a band that I absolutely adore, and the live album would contain like all their best tracks up to that point and be looked at as a landmark live album. A killer album by a trio who were just firing on all cylinders, combining progressive rock and heavy rock, hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. A very ambitious effort. And then a great release from a British band that I also absolutely adore. That was to be their last studio album with their amazing, amazing guitar player, at least for a while. And perhaps my favorite studio album from that band. Really tough to choose here. But what I wind up going with is none of those for my runner-up. I wind up going with a live album that's, for me, is one of my favorite live albums of all time. It's the last thing that they would do with their incredible guitar player who was with them for a few years up to this point. He would go his own separate ways. They would go in a slightly different direction going forward. But this live album, to me, it just brings together all that was great about their music in the 70s. I'm talking about Tokyo Tapes by the Scorpions. Just edging out UFO's Obsession, just edging out Rush Hemispheres, Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous, Rainbow, Long Live Rock and Roll, and a bunch of others. You know, I just absolutely love this album. I played this constantly when I first got it. I still listen to it quite a bit to this day. Uli John Roth's guitar work on here is absolutely extraordinary, I should say. And for me, a lot of the great songs on here are some of the best versions of those songs. You know, Pictured Life, Backstage Queen, Polar Nights in Trance, We'll Burn the Sky, Fly to the Rainbow, He's a Woman, She's a Man, Speedy's Coming, Top of the Bill, you know, Dark Lady, Robot Man, so on and so forth, all night long. I mean, it's just incredible. So that is my runner-up. But, of course, the winner today, Judas Priest, Stained Class, my favorite album for 1978. You know how it goes, guys. There's no right or wrong answer here. So in the comments below, list your favorite album from 1978. Remember, this is not about album sales, chart positions, best or worst, any of that kind of thing. It's about which one you feel inside is your favorite album. So it could be a rock album, metal album, prog album, jazz album, folk album, pop album, greatest hits compilation, live album. Does not matter if it was released in calendar year 1978. It's up for the pickings here, right? So visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time. And coming up tomorrow, we've got 1979 as we finish out the 70s. Another stellar year, some really great releases. So stay tuned for that tomorrow morning. Coming up momentarily, I'm going to talk about my favorite keyboard players of all time. So stay tuned for that. Also coming up later today, what else we got on our programming list? We've got going to rank the albums of the Kinks later on today, and hopefully get to a Monsters Den episode. I've got the film all lined up, ready to go, so it's just a matter of revisiting that, recording the video, and boom. So you got a lot more content coming up today. Happy Mother's Day once again to all the mothers out there watching and listening, and we'll see you guys later on. Take care. Bye-bye.